Hi, and welcome back to a novel study with Miss Wardell. Today we are reading Flora and Ulysses. I'm super excited. This is a really cool book. It's the Illuminated Adventures. This author, she combines poetry with graphic novels, and it's super, super cool. Alright, so we're going to try and get started. It says, in the Thickum kitchen, late on a summer afternoon, he says, "Happy birthday to you!" "What is this, Donald?" "This is your birthday present. It is a Ulysses Super Suction Multi-Terrain 2000X. Happy birthday!" It's a vacuum cleaner. It's a Ulysses 2000X. Yep, it's the crown jewel of vacuums. It features an extra long cord, 50 cord, so that absolutely no mess, no dirt is ever out of your reach. It's indoor, outdoor. It goes everywhere. It does everything. Goody. You have to try it out. Turn it on. For heaven's sake, Donald, please. As soon as she pushes this button, it goes crazy. Whoa! Hey now! Sucking up everything, taking down everything. What in the world, Donald? It's a multi-terrain. You should try it outside. And that's how it all began, with the vacuum cleaner. Really. Chapter 1. A Natural-Born Cynic. Flora Belle Buckman was in her room at her desk. She was very busy. She was doing two things at once. She was ignoring her mother, and she was also reading a comic book entitled The Illuminated Adventures of the Amazing Incandesto. "Flora," her mother shouted, "what are you doing up there?" "I'm reading," Flora shouted back. "Remember the contract?" her mother shouted. Do not forget the contract." At the beginning of summer, in a moment of weakness, Flora had made the mistake of signing a contract that said she would work to turn her face away from the idiotic hijinks of comics and towards the bright light of true literature. Those were the exact words of the contract. They were her mother's words. Flora's mother was a writer. She was divorced, and she wrote romantic novels. Talk about idiotic hijinks. Flora hated romance novels. In fact, she hated romance. "I hate romance," said Flora out loud to herself. She liked the way the words sounded. She imagined them floating above her in a comic strip bubble. It was comforting, thinking to have words. It was a comfort thing to have words. I agree. I love graphic novels. I hate romance. Ugh, she's so moody. Hanging over her head, especially negative words about romance. Flora's mother had often accused Flora of being a natural-born cynic. Flora suspected that this was true. A cynic, somebody who is never positive, always negative. She was a natural-born cynic who lived in a defiance of contracts. Yep, thought Flora, that's me. She bit her head and went back to reading about the amazing incandesto. She was interrupted a few minutes later by a very loud noise. It sounded as if a jet plane had landed in the Thickums' backyard. "What the heck?" said Flora. She got up from her desk and looked out the window and saw Mrs. Thickum running around the backyard with a shiny, oversized vacuum cleaner. It looked like she was vacuuming the yard. That can't be, thought Flora. Who vacuums their yard? Actually, it didn't look like Miss Thickum knew what she was even doing. It was more like the vacuum cleaner was in charge, and the vacuum cleaner seemed to be out of its mind, or its engine, or something. "A few bolts shy of a load," said Flora out loud. Then she saw Mrs. Thickum and the vacuum cleaner were headed directly for a squirrel. Hey now," said Flora. She banged on the window. "Watch out," she shouted. "You're going to vacuum up that squirrel." She said the words, and then She had a strange moment of seeing them hanging over her head. "You're going to vacuum up that squirrel." There it was. No pretending. Just kind of sentences, you might say, thought Flora. Flora, for instance, who would ever think you would shout, "You're going to vacuum up that squirrel"? It didn't make any difference, though. Or what words she said. Flora was too far away. The vacuum cleaner was too loud. And also, clearly, it was bent on destruction. This maleficent must be stopped, said Flora in a deep and superheroic voice. This maleficent must be stopped, was what the unassuming janitor Alfred T. Slipper always said before he was transformed into the amazing Incandesto and became a towering crime-fighting pillar of light. Unfortunately, Alfred T. Slipper wasn't present. Sorry. Oh my gosh, you can see here, it's going crazy, chasing this girl. There was Incandesto where was Incandesto when you needed him? Not that Flora really believed in superheroes, but still, she stood at the top and watched as the squirrel was vacuumed up. Poof! Poof! Holy Bagoomba, said Flora. Chapter 2. The mind of a squirrel. Not much goes on in the mind of a squirrel. I mean, huge portions of what is loosely termed the squirrel brain are given over to one thought: food. The average squirrel cognition goes something like this: I wonder what there is to eat. The thought is that repeated with small variations: where is the food? Man, I sure am hungry. And is that a piece of food? And are there more pieces of food? Some 6,000 or 7,000 times a day. All of this is to say that when the squirrel in the Thickums backyard got swallowed up by the Ulyssess 2000X, there wasn't a lot of terribly profound thoughts going through his head. This vacuum cleaner roared toward him. He did not, for instance, think, "Here, at last, is my fate. Come to meet me?" He did not think, "Oh, please, give me one more chance and I will be good." What he thought was, "Man, I sure am hungry." And then there was a terrible roar, and he was sucked right off his feet. At the point, there were no thoughts in the squirrel's head, not even thoughts of food. Chapter 3. The death of the squirrel. Seemingly swallowing a squirrel was a bit much even for the powerful indomitable indoor-outdoor Ulyssess 2000X. Mrs. Thickums' birthday machine let out an uncertain roar and stuttered to a stop. Mrs. Thickum bent over and looked down at the vacuum cleaner. There was a trail sticking out of it. "For heaven's sake," said Mrs. Thickum, "what's next?" She dropped to her knees and gave the tail a tentative tug. She stood. She looked around the yard. "Yep, help," she said. "I think I've killed a squirrel." We will pick up in chapter 4 just shortly. I hope you're enjoying it. Bye, guys.